I'm Scott Mercado, and welcome to In Focus. Today, my guest is Derek Chase, professor in New Mexico State University's Creative Media Institute, who specializes in 3D animation. Recently, Animation Career Review ranked NMSU's animation program 17th nationally, and the program remains ranked first in New Mexico and 7th regionally. Derek Chase, welcome to In Focus, and congratulations on the ranking. Now, the criteria evaluated included academic reputation, admission selectivity, depth and breadth of program faculty, graduation rate, geographic location, and employment data. But what do you feel are the things that make the animation department here so highly regarded over the past several years?
Yeah, thanks. I think that we offer a very competitive program at a budget-friendly rate, and I think that it's accessible. It's a public school. We have very creative students. We have a very creative faculty, and all of our assignments are really built in a way that we want to show off the students' individual creativity while also teaching them the industry standard techniques and processes.
Well, what are some of the courses in animation that your students learn throughout the program? Now, you teach 3D. 2D is also taught here. What are some other courses?
So we try to get all of our students taking the same core fundamental courses. So we focus on performance, we focus on the art, and we focus on the storytelling. So all animation students, regardless of wanting to go a 2D or 3D pathway, will focus on the story. So they take screenwriting, they'll take writing for animation, they'll take a history class. They'll also take performance classes, so they'll take acting courses, theater courses, and then they'll take art fundamentals, so fundamentals of drawing, and then the foundational 2D and 3D courses. And so they'll take 3D modeling, they'll take the intro 2D animation, so the hand-drawn and also tradigital, so drawing with digital tablets, and then the 3D animation. They all take that as a core foundational level of courses. And then once they get closer to their junior year, we start to branch them out specifically into their area of focus. So 2D animation starts to work more exclusively in hand-drawn animation, 2D rigging, and motion graphics. And then our 3D students start to kind of branch towards 3D animation, 3D modeling, 3D rigging, and even the visual effects component. And then at the very end, all students take a capstone course for their roadmap emphasis. So 2D students will take a 2D capstone course where they make a short film, and the same is true for 3D with a 3D film in the capstone course.
Well, you began your teaching career here at NMSU in 2011?
Yes, correct.
How has the animation department evolved and grown since you started here?
Yeah, fairly substantially. Whenever I first joined the faculty, there were 3 primary animation faculty. I became the 4th, and since then we're up to, I believe it's 6 now, and we've been able to add some very talented instructors to our faculty, especially at that core level and teaching the foundations of drawing and that sort of thing. But it's allowed us opportunities to teach classes that we previously could not. We were able to add the rigging courses, for instance. We've been able to push the visual effects a lot more, and I think that it allows our classes to be a lot more engaging and specialized and offer a more robust program for the students.
Well, as far as you personally, what were some of your animation influences?
As far as favorite movies or anything like
movies,
that?
Movies, animators?
You know, I really loved Nightmare Before Christmas, Tim Burton, that sort of stuff. I also really like the Leica films. That's the Paranorman and Coraline, and I like that stop motion, quirky, kind of funky look. Some of the stuff coming out now, Spider-Verse. I think Spider-Verse is a really interesting, fun film. I like the stylized, but you know, and it's true of CMI, we are story-centric. So anything that has a good story. I also love live action. I love the stuff shot here, Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, all those kind of shows.
Well, in the industry today, the animation industry, do you see them leaning towards certain areas, CGI, 2D, 3D, or is there opportunities for everyone upon, say, for graduate students here?
You know, a couple of years ago, I might have said that it leaned one way more than another one, but especially nowadays, I would say that there's a lot of opportunities for both 2D, 3D animation, there's visual effects, there's a lot of media-related interest, and so 2D, especially with the web access, there's shows that are coming out exclusively web-developed and for TV. Motion graphics continues to be a very prominent field for our animators to go into, both 2D and 3D. So I wouldn't necessarily think that it's one way more the other. I think it's an opportunity for any animator, whatever their interest is.
What other kind of fields do graduates or can graduates get into besides specifically animation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I was very pleasantly surprised to hear from our graduates and see where they branch out and what fields they all go into, because we train our students primarily for entertainment industry, so the big studio gig working on movies and TVs and video games, and we've had students work in those fields. But there's also students that will work in things like the labs. So they'll work at Sandia Labs and Los Alamos National Labs doing simulations and those sorts of things. So military, we had a student who worked for the Secret Service. She would do VR scans of the space, and then they would do training based in that area. So Secret Service is an area. We have some local graduates that are working in the medical field as well. So they work for Electronic Caregiver here in town, and they do a virtual avatar for healthcare. And so there's a lot of different fields. Graphics as well. The sports industry, we had someone work for the Yes Network up in New York. So they do the motion graphics for the Yankees and different sports teams and all that. So there's a lot of different areas. I tend to say anyone that needs some level of media, some sort of graphic or some sort of animated anything, there's a place for the animators.
Well, we have about a little over a minute left. Tell me what does the future hold for the animation department here?
Yeah, I think that we continue to want to grow. We continue to want to be competitive. Areas that I would really like to branch into would be more visual effects. We have classes that touch on visual effects, and we have a visual effects specific for 2D and 3D. We have 2D compositing and effects for 2D, and then the visual effects for the 3D. I would like to see more emphasis of that and maybe more cross collaboration with our film with visual effects. Also potentially the game industry. There's a lot of blurring of the lines between software that's used in the game industry and what's happening with the movie industry. And so I'd like to see a little more branching into that virtual production level.
All right, Derek Chase, animation professor in New Mexico State University's Creative Media Institute. Thank you for joining us today for In Focus.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.